You know that feeling? Like you're always on the outside, looking in, catching all these little details that just seem to fly past everyone else? Well, we're about to dive deep into the psychology behind that. And you know what? What we find might just completely change how you see yourself. Okay, so let's get right into it. Psychology has something to say about this. That whole outsider feeling, yeah, we tend to slap a label on it, right? We call it socially awkward, like it's some kind of personal failing. But what if that's completely wrong? Because the reality is, it's often the exact opposite. This isn't a bug in your system, it's a feature. It means your brain is just wired differently, operating on a higher frequency. You're tuned in, picking up on a level of awareness that lets you process way more data from your surroundings. And here's the kicker. Your silence isn't empty space. It's an active processing state. Psychologists call it cognitive complexity. You're not just being quiet, you're actively protecting your most valuable asset, your mental energy, your cognitive bandwidth, so you can use it on what actually counts. So that's what we're going to unpack today. We're going to reveal the 6 real reasons why your silence is actually a sign of an extremely high IQ. And once you see this pattern for yourself, I promise you'll stop blaming yourself for it. So the big idea here is a total reframe. We're talking about taking things you thought were flaws and seeing them for what they really are, features. Just look at this breakdown. It lays it all out. On the one hand, you've got the common labels we use: socially awkward, overthinking, antisocial, even messy. But on the other hand, we've got the psychological reality. Socially awkward becomes hyper-awareness. Overthinking is really cognitive complexity. Antisocial is your brain needing what's called the incubation effect. And yeah, messy, that's actually selective organization. Pretty cool, right? Let's get into each one. All right, let's decode these 6 signs of a high IQ mind and figure out what your behavior really means. Okay, first up is hyper-awareness. You know what this is. It's that almost uncanny ability to walk into a room and just feel the vibe has shifted. Or when you pick up on the tiniest change in someone's tone of voice. And where does this come from? Well, it's often developed from a lifetime of being the observer, what some researchers call being never the first choice. Basically, you learn to read the room because you absolutely had to. Now, let's be clear. This isn't insecurity. It's not paranoia. It's a highly evolved survival skill. It's your brain picking up on those moments when being ignored comes quietly. It's a skill that, frankly, most people just don't have. All right, number 2. This is a big one. You've probably been told you overthink things, right? Well, the real term for this is cognitive complexity. It's your brain's natural tendency to examine every single angle, every little detail, and every possible consequence of a situation before you act. And no, this isn't anxiety, it's something else entirely. Think of it like this. It's a high-resolution thought process. While other people are looking at a situation in, like, standard definition, you're seeing it in 4K. You see the full picture, not just the surface. Which brings us perfectly to our third sign, the incubation effect. Ever feel like you just need to be alone to think? There's a reason for that. This is a real psychological process where your brain's creative networks literally fire up to solve problems, but they do it best during periods of low stimulation. In other words, when you're by yourself. So, seeking solitude isn't you avoiding people. It's not being antisocial. It's a strategic move. You are creating the exact conditions your brain needs to disconnect from all the noise so your best ideas can finally surface. Okay, number 4. This one might hit a little close to home for some of you. It's called selective organization. This explains why some of the most brilliant minds you know can have a perfectly organized system for their ideas, but their desk looks like a hurricane went through it. Look, your focus is on what actually matters. Your brain knows its energy is limited, so it pours all of that power into high-priority stuff, like building ideas. The low-priority stuff, like where a piece of paper goes, ignored. You're not disorganized, you're allocating your energy with absolute precision. Moving on to number 5, which is all about our relationship with social media. You've probably heard of this. It's called variable reward reinforcement. Basically, it's the slot machine effect that social media platforms use to keep you hooked. You keep scrolling and scrolling because you never know when you're going to get that little reward, that little dopamine hit from a like or a comment. So if you're the kind of person who just deletes the apps, that's not you being antisocial. That's you recognizing the game. It's a conscious act of deprogramming. You're reclaiming your cognitive bandwidth from a system that's literally designed to steal it from you. And that brings us to our 6th and final sign, Verbal reasoning. And yeah, this is the fancy term for talking to yourself. And I know, people think it's a weird habit, but it is a powerful, structured tool for organizing your thoughts. Seriously, it's not weird at all. It's actually a high-speed method your brain uses to structure complex thoughts and accelerate solutions. You're literally building a coherent story out of chaos, and it works. So, what's the big takeaway here? It's simple, really. It's about embracing your cognitive style. Stop judging the way your brain works based on someone else's rulebook. So let's just run through it one more time. These are your brain's true traits. It's not insecurity, it's hyper-awareness. It's not overthinking, it's cognitive complexity. It's not avoidance, it's the incubation effect. It's not messiness, it's selective organization. It's not being disconnected, it's psychological detachment. And it's not being weird, it's verbal reasoning. And let me be crystal clear about this. This isn't some fake feel-good motivation. This is how psychology actually sees your intelligence. These are the real frameworks used to understand these behaviors as signs of a powerful mind at work. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button, because the next explainer we do might just explain something about your own mind that you've never ever noticed before.